Hi, this is Joe McPhee for the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame inductee profile, and my guest is Mike Lebossiere. Mike was born in 1952, Somerset, Manitoba. He was a catcher with the Virgin Oilers from 1969 to 74 and the Hamiota Red Sox from 1975 to 89. He was an MSBL first-team All-Star 11 times, second-team All-Star 6 times. He was the MSBL MVP in 1982 and was on 6 MSBL championships teams. He was named a second-team catcher on the MSBL's 40-year all-time All-Star team. He played in 9 Western Canadian championships and 7 Canadian championships, 3 World Championships. On Baseball Canada Coaches Committee, 1987 to the present time, he has prepared 3 coaches' manuals, authored Getting Started in Baseball, and conducted coach evaluation at the 1997 National Selects in Stonewall. He's been an MBA course conductor and high performance committee member. He's also been a scout for the New York Yankees, starting in 1987, and currently a scout for Milwaukee Brewers. Mike was inducted into the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame in 2002. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Joe.
So tell me, how did you get started playing ball?
Well, we lived in Glenboro. My dad worked for the Interprovincial Pipeline, and when I was younger, and when I was about 9 years old, I guess I got started in, I don't know if you want to call it organized baseball, but we had a 4-team little league in Glenboro, and we used to pick teams to go to tournaments, little league tournaments around that area in Holland and Treeherne and Somerset and little towns like that. My dad usually was the coach, and most Sundays in the summer we'd have 12 or 15 ball players on our front lawn and hop in a car and go somewhere for a tournament and then come back later. And I played ball in Glenboro in Pee-wee and Bantam, and played some midget and juvenile and even senior ball when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. Stan Olsen was one of my coaches, and then we moved to Verdun when I was 15, and I played midget ball there and some, I guess at the time they called it bison ball. Lloyd Brown was one of my coaches. I got picked up by Brandon one year, and I enjoyed the time there. And I started playing with the Oilers when I was 17, I guess. Played there for 5 years. And then when I got a teaching job at Elton Collegiate, I started playing with Hamiota and finished my career in Hamiota playing with the Red Sox.
Okay, great. So you had a long career in Hamiota. Now, what positions did you primarily play? In
minor baseball, I pitched. I played shortstop. I caught a little bit, and when I started playing in the MSBL, I started primarily as a shortstop with a little bit of pitching when we were late innings and shorter pitchers. And then I started doing some catching, and I guess that was primarily my position and probably where I had the most success.
That's where your all-star selections
Yes.
were as a catcher. Okay. Now, I believe you're still active playing ball.
Yes, I still play a little bit, and Brandon has what they call now a senior AA league, and I play with the Dix Agency's Classics, and still doing a little playing. I played in that league for a number of years, and then took a year or two off, and then started playing again last year.
Okay, and do you still catching, or?
Still do a little catching, do some pitching, play some infield, just wherever an opening is, I'll try and fill in there.
Okay, and where did you usually bat when you played for Hamiota? I know they had a powerful lineup, but
most of the time probably in the third position. Sometimes the number 4 spot, but I was never much of a home run hitter, more of a line drive hitter. So I often hit in the third spot.
Okay, great. Now, you also became an author on baseball. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, when I started, I got involved with the Baseball Canada Coaches Committee, and that committee was responsible for the National Coaching Certification Program having to do with baseball. So when I was involved with that, we were in the process of redoing some of the coaches' manuals. So we redid the Level 1 and Level 2 and Level 3 manuals. And then the Coaching Association of Canada contacted me one year. They wanted to do sort of an introductory manual for baseball as well as other sports. Okay. So they got me involved in that, and we sort of worked with coaches from soccer and some other sports as well to create sort of a generic manual for first-time coaches. And then there was a part that dealt specifically with baseball and some baseball skills, so did that as well.
Good. Now, I know you represented Manitoba many times at national tournaments. Did you ever represent Canada, actually?
Yes, I played with Canada 2 years, actually. In 1978, the World Championships were in Italy, and I played for Canada then. And then in 1980...
What they called the Continental Cup?
The Intercontinental Cup was, I think, every second year or something like that. This was just the World Baseball Championships. And then in 1980, the World Championships were in Japan, and we were in Korea for a preliminary tournament as well that year, too.
Great. Okay, any famous players that were on those teams that went on to stardom? Or?
Actually, yes. In 1978, the U.S. team had some players that went on to play in the major leagues. Tim Leary was one of their pitchers. Atlee Hammaker, I think, went on to play with San Francisco. Tim Wallach played with the Expos for quite a number of years. Terry Francona, who's the current manager of the Boston Red Sox, was also on the U.S. team. There was also an outfielder named David Green that played with Nicaragua that I think he played with St. Louis.
Right.
And also a player that I played with in Hamiota, Marty Mason, played with us in 1979, I think, is now the bullpen coach for the St. Louis Cardinals as well. So it's sort of interesting to have those connections.
Yeah, great. Now, you also have been a long-time scout. First of all, many years for the New York Yankees and currently for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, what does being a scout involve?
Well, it involves actually just going to a lot of ball games. I'm responsible for basically Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So we're mainly interested in players that are going into their graduating year of high school. That's when they're eligible for the draft. Right. So players that are about 18 years old. Yeah. So you have to see these players, see the top players in Manitoba and Saskatchewan play. And then try and evaluate them to see if they meet certain standards. There's 5 tools we look for, being able to hit with power, run, field, and throw. Okay. And then there's sort of a grading system involved with that. And if you see any players that you think have the potential to play at a professional level, then you would pass their name on to the organization, and then keep an eye on them. And when it comes to draft time, which is coming up somewhere around the first week in June, they may be in line to get drafted.
Okay. Now, would they take your word for it, or they send out a higher up scout to do the final evaluation?
It depends sort of where that particular player would fit into the system. If it's somebody that's maybe in the top 15 rounds or 20 rounds, they would probably send out somebody called a cross-checker to take a look at them and just see how they would fit in with some of the other top players in Canada and the United States. Somebody in lower rounds, like a 25th round or something like that, they'd probably take our word for it, and we could draft and then see how they develop.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Joe.
This has been Joe McPhee for the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame inductee profiles. My guest has been Mike Lebossiere.